What are 10 red flags in freelance clients? Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. Thanks for coming back to the channel once again this week. I hope you're all doing well. If I look a bit tired, sorry, it is because I am really tired. But this is literally the last thing on my to-do list today, so after that I go straight to take a nap. But first, let's look at the top 10 red flags in freelance clients. I made a similar video about translators, so sides reversed. You can click here if you're interested and make sure to not make these 10 mistakes that I outlined there. But now let's flip the tables and let's look at clients' red flags, and there are plenty, definitely, that I have seen over the years, and I made a list here with the top 10 things that came to mind. Of course, there are always more. If you have other suggestions, let the people know in the comments. But these are the 10 that I came up with and that I always see over and over again and that are really annoying me. So let's get into it. Number 1, unprofessional communication. This starts with already the email address. If it's a generic email address, a Hotmail, an Outlook, a Gmail, usually that's a bad sign for me, right? If it's a serious business, a serious translation agency, direct client, etc., they hopefully have a website. And if they have a website, they have a domain, so they have also an email address, right? So that's goes without saying. But then also how they write emails, how they talk to you, how they address you. If they address you as like dear linguist or dear resource, I've seen, or like, yeah, I've seen the craziest addresses of businesses, and that just means that it's just a bulk email that goes to a bunch of people, and it's probably a race to the bottom. They don't really want to work with you, they just want to work with anyone. They probably have a bunch of languages that they are looking for people for. So these unprofessional communication skills, unpersonal communication techniques are definitely a red flag for me. I get these emails, like 5 of them a day, I'm not kidding, and I delete them immediately. I'm not even going into negotiation because I know it's not worth my time. The same if they don't outline in the communication about the projects, if they are really vague about it, they don't give you a proper deadline, etc. These are all things that are a huge red flag. Communication is, for me, the number one way to spot a very bad client that will give you a lot of troubles. Kind of similarly, but a bit less drastic, when the client doesn't give you briefings on the job. So let's assume the client had good communication and you actually went ahead and got a job with them, and then it's actually about working. And they don't give you structures, they don't give you a style guide, they don't give you a briefing about the job, they don't give you a briefing about the end client, just no communication, and you have to ask all the questions. That's also a red flag, but it's solvable because you can be the one that's proactive and say, hey, I need this information, please give it to me. But usually this research and this additional questioning is not paid, right? So it's not something, a client should give you a briefing and a style guide and all the resources that you need for a translation before you can start, and you should not be the one asking for it. Another red flag is unrealistic deadlines, right? If someone tells you that they have 40,000 words to translate and they need it by tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, that's simply not feasible. And maybe they tempt you with a good offer. They say, oh, we need this express, we can pay you 20% more. But you still need to check the rate. Is it actually worth it? Like, even if 20% more on a bad rate is still bad, right? So if someone has unrealistic deadlines, that means that they are very rushed. That means that it's unprofessional, it's not thinking ahead, and that's a red flag for me. It's not unsolvable, because if it's really a serious client and the deadline is just so short, then they will be willing to negotiate a bit, to find other solutions, maybe split the job between different translators. I've done that in the past. Some of my long-standing clients sometimes have deadlines that are unrealistic, and then I offer them solutions, right? That's not what I mean. For me, it's more the unprofessional communication that I mentioned before. If in these you have unrealistic deadlines, that's already a no-go for me. Next up are payment terms or payment practices in general. I hate that it's very common in our industry to pay in like 60, sometimes 90, sometimes 120 days. It's unbelievable. I make a point of paying my invoices definitely within the month because it happens that I forget, of course, but I think it's out of respect for the person that does work for you. you should do that, right? It's crazy to me to pay 2, 3, 4 months later for a work that has been done 2, 3, 4 months before. So if someone offers me anything above 30 payment terms, I say that's not acceptable for me. I need at least 30 days or at most 30 days. And it has happened before that some companies were not willing to change that because of processes. And then I say, yeah, because of my processes, that also doesn't work. So it has happened that they changed it to 30 days for me because I asked to. So it's just up to you whether it's a no-go for you or not. And then, payment terms is one thing and payment practices is another thing. So if they actually pay you and if they pay you on time and through a payment method that's acceptable to you, right? I know that some companies, especially when it's overseas, they like to pay with PayPal or with Wise and stuff. And I'm not a fan of that because it becomes quite messy then in your bank accounts, in your declarations at the end of the year or at the end of the month. So I don't do that. I just exclusively work with wire transfer. I don't do like checks in the bank or something like that. I think these things are more American. It doesn't really happen here, but my main audience is American. So to all you guys out there, I would not probably not accept things like that in my payment practice just because it's not. Or maybe it's usual for you guys, then it's fine. Just for me, it's very unusual. So whenever someone offers these payment methods, I say that's not a practice I support. Next point, free work, free samples. Not a fan of that at all. Translation tests that are unpaid should not be unpaid. I feel like tests are work. Tests are we do that in our working time, right? If I do a translation test for a company, I understand that they are sometimes needed. You want to assess someone. They should not be more than one page. They should have relevant information in there that you can actually research without finding. I can't tell you how many times I have just found the literal translation of the test already online. And then what do? I'm then transparent. I go to the client and I say, look, I found the official translation. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to improve upon it? I can do that. Or do you want me just to say that I found it to test my research skills? Or what's the plan? If you test freelancers, please test them realistically with a job that doesn't exist yet, that is paid. It's only fair. No one should do free work. We do all of this for money in the end. I said it last week as well. Next up, if a company pressures you to work without a contract, that is very shady and should be illegal, but it is not, I think, at least not everywhere. So if it's a very small job that you're not going to lose money, like in the worst case, you're losing a couple €100, fine, do it without contract, right? That's up to you. But I would never work on a big job on a long-term contract on a long-term assignment without a contract, because imagine you're working a month for a company and then they just disappear, they just steal your work and they never pay you. That would hurt so much, and so much hard work went into that month. So always ask for written approval, written confirmation. A contract needs to be agreed upon when you start working. And technically in some places oral contracts are valid, but still it's hard when you don't actually have a physical copy of it, a proof of it, right? So I would always have everything in writing. So in worst case, you can go after them with legal resources. If a company has no professional website, no professional online presence, it's just not existent online, that's a huge red flag for me, because that means that's some kind of post box address that they don't really want to, be located somewhere and pay taxes or something like that. So these ghost companies, they do exist. I would never work with them. I check everyone I go into negotiations with. I check their website. I check on LinkedIn who works there, so I can find a person to contact. Yes. So that's a very important aspect for me. Even if the website is there but unprofessional, that's already a red flag for me. If someone has a company that outsources content and doesn't put effort into their own content, that for me is a red flag. Low rates goes without saying. If someone offers you extremely low rates, tells you pressures you to give you your best offer, your ultimate offer, says I can get this cheaper with another colleague, can't you match this price and stuff. Huge red flag. This will not be a good client to work with, because they don't value you for your expertise. They only value you based on your price, and that's not something we strive for, right? That's not why we study for years. That's not why we specialize, to be then reduced to a per word rate. That is absurd to me. So if someone does that, they don't really want to work with you. Find people that want to work with you for what you represent, for what you show, how you show yourself online. Your online presence matters a lot, how people perceive you. So then they actually want to work with you as a person, because they know your expertise, they know you're specialized in something, and they know you're trustworthy. So then they would never even come with an email saying, give me your ultimate final best offer, Mr. Probst, otherwise we can't work together. No, if you want to work with me, that's my price, that's what it costs, there you go. Similar, but the other way around, if an offer is way too good to be true, that also can be a red flag, right? That goes then into the scammer area, where unfortunately people still use my identity to offer unbelievable money to people, and people unfortunately sometimes fall for it and translate like a full booklet, like 40 pages, and they think they get paid 3,000-4,000 euros, and then they deliver and no one pays them. They get scammed in my name, and then they write me on Instagram saying, why don't you pay me? And I have no idea what they're talking about, right? So please be careful of that. If something is too good to be true, it can be true. So first of all, be happy that it can be true, and you can be the one that gets paid very well, but just make sure you go through all the 10 points that I said, and one is coming at the end, to make sure to verify that it's a proper company, it's not a scam. Make sure to double check it twice. Look for the person on LinkedIn if they really work in this company, just to be sure. And you can, if it's a first job, I would even ask for a prepayment, maybe 25%, just to have something in case. And last but not least, the blue board on pros.com is your friend. It's such a useful resource. I use it all the time when someone reaches out to me. One of the first things I look is on Blueboard. You just type in the name of the company in Google, and then you add Blueboard Pros at the end, and then the first result in Google will be their Blueboard rating. And there you can see other translators rate them based on their experience with them, payment, jobs, friendliness, communication, etc. And if they have a rating of like 3 or even lower, even 4 is already can be a red flag sometimes. So if a company is under than 4.5, there is something wrong. You should check in the history. Maybe it's years ago that they were not good and now they are reliable. That can be, and the rating is improving. But if it's not above 4.5 on pros, on the blue board of pros, it's a red flag to look into. And if it's 3 or below, don't work with them. That's going to end up horrifically. There you go, 10 red flags in freelance clients. I hope this was useful to you guys. Make sure to scroll down, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and tune in next Monday for the next video. I think it's going to be a video about things that no one tells you before you go freelance. So I'm still working on it, but it should be a good watch, so make sure to come back. And it's going to be February already, I think. Insane. Have a nice afternoon, morning, day, whenever you're watching, and I see you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.